During my wife and I, Carrie Ann, our 15 years of marriage, there was one major time that we just could not get along. Now, there's a lot of little times, okay? But there was one major time that we couldn't get along, and we had to go to counseling in order to get something figured out. And so I want you to hear it. Yes, even pastors have to go to counseling to get things figured out sometimes when you can't communicate. And so one of the things that was happening was, we had a big transition had taken place in our marriage. And that big transition was we had just had our first child. And our first child, and she came into the world and she's beautiful, but it turned our whole marriage upside down having her come in. And so I was busy here at the church. Carrie Ann was busy with the baby. Ladies, there's just things that men can't do that you can, and all those things that go along with that. And so, man, we were just back and forth. And we thought, what is going on? And so we wound up going to counseling. And we went for about 6 or 7 sessions. And I am totally that guy in that little short film that you saw. I am trying to figure out, okay, how do we fix this? How do we fix it? Because each time we go is costing us money. And so the longer this thing, isn't that a boy thing? It's called, it's dragging us out. And so here I am, I'm trying to fix this. And so I'm going through the whole thing. And finally, as we're walking through this together, I figure it out. We're just not sitting down and communicating. We used to be able, we had all this time on our hands to have a heart to heart, that we were able to spend time with one another. And now I'm busy, she's busy, and we're not really seeing one another. And I found out that it's almost like the light bulb just went off in that session. And I said, you need us to just sit down and talk, don't you? She said, yeah. And for a solid year, we went out to go grab pancakes. And we would, on Saturday morning, we'd go grab pancakes, or we go get an omelet or something like that. And it was just the best time. There was no dishes to do. There was no cooking that we had to do. It was just us being able to sit down and communicate. And as I thought about that, of us just getting on the same page, and it reminded me that communication, if you really think about it, communication in our relationships, and not even romantic relationships, but it's general relationships, all communication is like crossing a bridge. I think we might even have a picture of our bridge that's going up out here. So I don't know if y'all have known this, the Bissonnais Bridge. This is a picture that I went out there yesterday, and I took a picture of our Bissonnais Bridge. It's been around since 1966. And I don't know if you've heard this, but they're actually going to start working on it. Are they working this week, or are they starting next week? Okay. So the good news is they're fixing our bridge, right? The bad news is they're fixing our bridge, which means it's going to be closed for a little bit. And so for the next couple of months, we're going to have to figure out how to come around. We might even come around the back way, or if you're part of our school, we'll have to figure out how to get to our school. But I was thinking about that. But it reminded me, I was thinking to myself as I thought about our bridge and the work that's going to be done on our bridge, I said, that's communication. That's communication. I'm on one side, they're on the other, and we're trying to figure this thing out in the middle. And the messages that we're sending to one another, the communication, is what's in the middle. And so as I began to think about that bridge and that what communication is like, it's not cars going from one side to the other, but it's messages that are going from one side to the other. And so I want to show you this. Maybe that we'll put this up here on the screen, and just to really give you a visual of effective communication. Effective communication comes as a result of building a bridge between two people. It's building a bridge between two people. And so look, you got you on one side and you got others on the other side. And so you've got things that are coming across. You've got messages, you've got communication, you've got all those things that are coming across. But here's the deal. So many times what happens is that bridge isn't built. And so you could give the exact same words, the exact same communication, all these stuff can be the exact same. But if that bridge isn't built, guess what? It's going to happen with your communication. It's going to go in the canal. Have you ever had that where you're talking with someone and you're thinking, I'm trying to be as nice as I can. I'm trying to be as kind as I can. I'm trying to be as clear as I can. Maybe it's been with your spouse and you've got all this, but because your bridge is faulty, things keep falling into the canal. And in many cases, it's not what you say. It's like our title says, it's beyond words. It's the bridge. The reason that communication is so bad between you and others is the fact that there's no bridge between you and that other person. And so that bridge between you and the other person might be broken or it might need to be repaired. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today as we go into our relationship series. And so that brings us to 1 Samuel chapter 20. 1 Samuel chapter 20. And I'm going to get there here in just a second. Today we're going to talk about the friendship between David and Jonathan. And I could have used a lot of different passages in the Bible. I could have used Ruth and Naomi and their relationship with one another back towards the book of Judges. I could have used Jesus and his relationship with the disciples. But I'm going to tell you, I decided to use David and Jonathan for one particular reason. Because what we're going to be looking at today is that they are in the midst of heated communication. A lot of times you have a lot of the principles that we'll be talking about, but today we are going to see heated communication. Let me give you the background of what's going on. King Saul is coming after David. He's jealous of David. God has rejected King Saul because of King Saul's disobedience. And because of his disobedience, Saul knows David is coming up next. He's going to be the next king. And so this has caused a problem because King Saul's his son is David's best friend. And so he is jealous and he's trying to kill David. He's tried to kill David twice now. And David could have washed his hands of this whole situation. He could have said, I'm moving out of Israel. I'll come back some other day. But the major problem is his best friend is Saul's son. So what are you going to do? It's your best friend. And so we get up close on their heated conversation right here in 1 Samuel chapter 20, and we're going to go and read verses 1 through 13. Look at this with me. It says, Then David fled from Naioth to Ramah, and he went to Jonathan and he asked, and don't miss this, he's coming at him, he's pelting him with questions. What have I done? What is my crime? How have I wronged your father, that he is trying to take my life? Boom, boom, boom. Have you ever been in a conversation? And man, all these questions are coming in fast. They're coming in heated. And so Jonathan comes back, and I love this. Verse 2, never! Exclamation point. Jonathan replied, you are not going to die! Exclamation point. I mean, this tells us the conversation is heated, all right? And so as he goes on, you're not going to die. Look, my father doesn't do anything great or small without confiding in me. Why would he hide this from me? It's not so. David comes back. The argument continues. But David took an oath and said, your father knows very well that I have found favor in your eyes. And he said to himself, Jonathan must not know this, or he'll be grieved. Yet as surely as the Lord lives and as you live, there is only a step between me and death. And so Jonathan said to David, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it for you. And so they come up in verses 5 through 7, they kind of come up with a little bit of a plan. So David said, look, tomorrow's the new moon festival and I'm supposed to dine with the king, but let me go and hide in the field until the evening of the day after tomorrow. What would happen is they would come together and they would all sit around the king's table. Even David would come and sit around the king's table. And this was a special feast with a new moon, everything that's going on. And so David was supposed to be there. And so he looks at Jonathan and he says, hey, listen, Jonathan, I'm supposed to be there, but how about you tell your dad that I need to be somewhere else and I'll just go hide in the field and let's just see how he reacts. So that's kind of what's going on. In verse 6, it says, if your father misses me at all, tell him David earnestly asked my permission to hurry to Bethlehem, his hometown, because an annual sacrifice is being made there for his whole clan. If he says very well, then your servant is safe. But if he loses his temper, you can be sure that he is determined to harm me. So they come up with a plan. But then in verse 8, as for you, show kindness to your servant, for as you have brought him into a covenant with you before the Lord. And I can almost picture this happening. The conversation is coming to a crescendo. The emotions are coming to a crescendo. And look at what he says. He says, but if I'm guilty, Jonathan, just kill me yourself. Why hand me over to your father? Never, Jonathan said. If I had the least inkling that my father was determined to harm you, wouldn't I tell you? And David said, who would tell me if your father answers you harshly? Come, Jonathan said, let's go into the field. And so they went there together. And then Jonathan said to David, by the Lord, the God of Israel, I will surely sound out my father is favorably disposed towards you. Will I not send you word and let you know? And then verse 13, I want you to home in on this. But if my father is inclined to harm you, may the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if I do not let you know and send you away safely. What a mess. What a dramatic family drama mess that is taking place. You're my best friend, but my dad hates you. Think about that in terms of a relationship. Hopefully you've never had that in terms of a relationship, students, where you like someone, but their mom or their dad, they hated you. Because then that could be very problematic. So David is frantic. Even think about this. Let's just put ourselves in David's shoes. David has gone against Goliath. His enemy Goliath, all of that has taken place. But at least with Goliath, his enemy was on the battlefield and he knew who his enemy was. Saul keeps going back and forth, wishy-washy. Does he like me? Does he not? Now he loves me. Now he's trying to kill me. Now he's trying to hunt me. And so David is frantic because of this back and forth and back and forth. And so what I want you to see today is I want you to grab your notes. And as you grab your notes this morning, you'll notice there's no numbers down the page. There's no letters down the page. Miss Rachel was exactly right. Because today what I want us to do, instead of writing our points, today what I want to do is I want us to just simply draw a picture. Would that be easy enough? We're just going to simply draw a picture. And so what I want you to do is kind of what we saw earlier. I want you to put you on one side, and I want you to put others on the other side of your page. And communication kind of right there in the middle. So effective communication, it comes as a result, and we talked about this earlier, of building that bridge, okay? So you're on the one side and others are on the other. And so you can see up here on the screen, so in our scenario that we're looking at, that we can see from the scriptures, David is on one side and Jonathan is on the other side. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to simply draw a box. Just draw a little box that goes across, and I want you to see that and how they form a bridge. There's this communication. Communication, all it is a bridge. It's beyond words. It's forming that bridge. It's repairing that bridge. And I want you to look with me as you've got that open. You're drawing your picture right there. And I want you to see in verse 13. Let's just read this one more time. In verse 13, he says, if my father is inclined to harm you, may the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely. Now look at this. Don't miss this. If I do not let you know and send you away safely. So he says, may God deal with me. May God judge me if I don't keep you safe. And in that box, here's what I want you to write. I just want you to write the word trust. I want you to write the word trust. Because listen to me, if there is no trust, the way that Jonathan comes on the scene here, he says, may God deal with me if I don't keep you safe. He is talking about, he's building that bridge of trust, that trust that's been built for many years, but he's reinforcing it in this moment. If there's no trust between you and someone else, your spouse, your child, your friends. Listen to me. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say. I don't care what decisions you make. If there's not a bridge of trust between you and that other person, the way that there was between Jonathan and David, whatever words, whatever communication comes out of your mouth or your body language or whatever, it's going to fall flat if you don't have a bridge of trust. Let me give you an illustration. Sometimes I'll walk through the store. I go grab my groceries. And lo and behold, you guys have been there too. I go and I got groceries on my mind. I got my list on my mind. And typically I'm buying things for the church. You know, a lot of times I'll get things for my house, but I'm getting things for the church. You know, we got a chili cook-off tonight. We've got other things going on with the youth. You know, we're buying things for the youth on Wednesday night. And so we're getting all those things. And so I'm kind of going to the store with a game plan. And lo and behold, there's always that person that is trying to reach out to me and to change my phone plan. You've been there too. And you've got all those things on your mind. And I don't know about you, but I'm just in the mode, and I'm not even in the mode to just like walk past and be like, no, thank you. A lot of times that I'm that kind of guy. I'm going to go the whole aisle over. Pastor Dan, what do you need in the craft section? I don't need any. I need to get away from that guy. That's what I need to do. So I'll go over and I'm not going through crafts. I'm not, trying to build bracelets or anything like that. I'm just trying to get away from that guy. And I'll tell you why. Because you know what? Maybe he could save me money on my phone plan. But every time I see those folks, and by the way, if you work in one of those positions, I am so sorry, by the way. If you're one of those guys, that's your job. I just want to apologize on the front end. Okay? I love you. Jesus loves you. It's good that you're here today. But my point is, I have trouble trusting them because I know that they're trying to make a sale. And quite frankly, they have rehearsed that conversation and I haven't. And so I'm going in there and I'm like, I don't trust you. And so maybe they are telling me the truth. Maybe they could, maybe with the words, maybe with the communication, maybe they genuinely could save me money on whatever phone plan. But I'm not at a place where I trust them. There's no bridge there. I don't know you. And you're my friend. And so I want you to hear this loud and clear that bridge of trust has not been built. Now, I'll even put this up here on the screen. A lot of times, some people, what they may be doing is they may be telling you the truth. They might be telling you the truth. But because that bridge of trust isn't built, that truth that they're not even trying to lie to you, but that truth falls into the canal. How many times have you tried to have a conversation with someone? You try to have a conversation with maybe someone and there's some hurt between you, so that bridge has been broken. It's got some flaws in it because you've hurt one another in whatever way, and you're genuinely trying to tell them the truth, but they can't hear it because the bridge of trust is fractured. Let me give you another illustration. I got a buddy of mine who became a pastor in a church about 2 years ago. And one time he calls me and he says, Dan, we have been friends for years and years. And so from time to time, I'll give him little tips of, what to do in ministry. He said, I have one of my leaders, and he just said the most awkward. It was awkward. It was a little inappropriate. It just made everybody kind of feel kind of weird in that moment. And he said it wasn't just like a one-time thing. He said a lot of times what he's doing is he'll make these little awkward comments that just make everybody feel a little off. And he said, and I really gotta talk to this guy, but he's not just a person in our church. He's actually a leader in our church. And so I looked at him. I said, before I even say like what you're going to say to him, I said, tell me when the last time you went with him to go grab lunch. So I haven't grabbed lunch yet. I said, have you grabbed coffee with him yet? He said, no, I haven't grabbed coffee with him yet. I said, what you need to do is you need to go grab lunch or coffee, and don't even talk about the problem on the front end. I said, you need to go chat with him and find out about his family. Where was he raised? Where did he grow up? Get to know his heart. Start building that bridge of trust. And then you'll have the opportunity, and it might even be right then and there, or maybe it'll be later, that you'll have the opportunity to talk to him, and that conversation will go well. And so that's exactly what he did. He went and he was able, and by the time the whole thing was over, he said, Dan, he said, we had the conversation. He trusted me in that moment. He even apologized. He apologized for just acting awkward and maybe, saying something that sounded inappropriate but really wasn't. He said, he actually apologized to me and said, I promise you it'll never happen again. I said, all of that happened not because you said the right words, it's because you had built that bridge of trust. Ladies and gentlemen, it's beyond the words. We have to build our bridge of trust. And I want you to think about your relationships this morning. Maybe your circumstances are external, like David and Jonathan. David and Jonathan, the villain isn't David or Jonathan, right? It's external. It's dad. It's Saul, all right? But sometimes there seems to be a villain, between one or the other. But whatever has been your battle between you and the other person, your wife, your husband, your boss, your coworker, and things are not going well, I have one little question for you this morning. How much do you trust each other? How much do you trust each other? Because that will mean the world to whether or not you have effective communication. And you'll never have effective communication until you work on that bridge of trust. And there may be people in your life, and can we just talk openly? There may be people in your life that you will not ever trust. Can I put that on the table? Next week, we're going to be talking about forgiveness in our relationship series, and we'll open up this a little bit more, how forgiveness and trust are two totally different things. There may have been someone in your life that has done something so hurtful and so painful. Yes, you've forgiven them because that's what God has called you to do, but that doesn't mean that you have to trust them. So what do you do? You're trying to communicate. You have to communicate with this person. So what do you do when there is no trust? And sometimes you just got to get a third party in there to establish some kind of accountability, to establish some type of bridge. In fact, I'm going to put this up here on the screen. Matthew chapter 18, verse 20. I'm pretty sure most of y'all know this verse, but it's probably been taken out of context in your realm of influence. It says this, Matthew 18:20 says, for where there are 2 or 3 gathered in my name, I am there among them. You say, oh, that verse does sound familiar. Most people think that this verse is talking about 2 or 3 gathering in God's name for prayer. That's actually not what it's talking about. A lot of times people say 2 or 3 together in prayer. And don't get me wrong, when you do pray 2 or 3, yes, the Lord is in your midst. But if you actually go through and you read Matthew chapter 18, this is talking about sin. This is talking about where people have sinned against one another. And it's talking about accountability. And if a person is totally untrustworthy, or maybe they've got a sin in their life and they're not trying to get that sin out at all. Sometimes you have to bring a third person in, a second or third person in, a neutral person, in order to establish some kind of trust bridge. Go look it up. That you have to bring in someone. So a lot of times there will not be a trust bridge, and you need some people to come around you to help establish that trust bridge. Well, let's keep going in this story and see what's happening. So David and Jonathan, they're having this feud. Neither one is the villain, but now they've established trust. Now here's what I want you to see. Look at me in verse 15. And do not ever cut off your kindness from my family. This is Jonathan continuing to talk to David. Not even when the Lord has cut off every one of David's enemies from the face of the earth. Verse 16, check this out. So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, may the Lord call David's enemies to account. So he makes a covenant with him. And he's establishing loyalty. So here's what I want you to do. I want you on your bridge, I want you to draw a box kind of over to the side. And I'm just going to do it on the right side because this is Jonathan who's saying these things, okay? So I want you to draw a little box. This is going to be your pillar, All right, this is going to be one of the pillars that's going to hold up your bridge of trust. And on that pillar, I want you to write the word loyalty. I want you to write the word loyalty, okay? Because that's exactly what Jonathan does. In verse 16, it says that he made a covenant with the house of David. He made a covenant. He's establishing loyalty. Let me tell you something. It's one thing to trust someone. It's one thing to have that bridge of trust. To trust that they are being truthful, to trust that they are being honest with you. It is something else entirely for you to know that they have your back. If you know that not only can I trust this person, but this person has my back. They are loyal to me. They are committed to me. They are faithful to me. They have fidelity to me. Whatever word you want to put in there, that they have my back. And the pillar of loyalty holds up that bridge of trust so much more. As we approach Valentine's Day, I think about Valentine's Day. By the way, youth, I wanted to let you know on Valentine's Day, we're not going to have youth at night, so you can go out with your sweetheart. We're going to have youth at 10:30 in the morning. I know a lot of y'all are out of school, so we're going to have youth at 10:30. So if you need to enjoy Valentine's Day, then you can go and do that. But let me just I tell you what, let me get a little audience and participation here. So when you think about a relationship, and particularly a romantic relationship, where would you say that relationship just first begins? Where does it first begin? Like, how would you define it? What are you doing? Help me out here. What are you doing? You are talking. I love that. In fact, I have that in my notes. So you start out with the talking stage. Have you ever said, oh, you and so are going out? Oh, we're not going out. We're just talking. Make sure you get this right, parents, all right? Because you don't mess it up with your kids, all right? Oh, we're just talking. Okay. But then you go on to the talking, and maybe not even into quite full-blown going out stage. What would you say is in between talking and going out? What would you say? What'd you say? Seeing each other, okay? Seeing each other. I actually put this down as dating, so you go from talking, I like that, seeing each other. So talking, dating, and then going out, all right? So things are kind of progressing right there as you see that. And so many times if you got a boyfriend or girlfriend, you've kind of gone through these stages. And most people will feel like that maybe like the next thing as they progress, engagement, or even marriage is just the fourth and fifth stage. But I'm here to tell you it's not. A lot of times people have this, we just need to go to the next stage. We've been dating, you've been my boyfriend, girlfriend for, however long, a year, 2 years, whatever. Now let's get engaged. And they think that that's just the next stage to go to, okay? But it's not. Because a lot of people get so caught up in things like the wedding. They get so caught up in the dress, and the music, and the invitations, and the caterer, and all that, and they get so excited about that day and what's going on, but they don't realize there's a marriage that comes after that. And for me as a pastor who actually is in front of all the people, a lot of times they're thinking about all the other things that are going on that day, and there's something that is vitally important that so many times can get pushed to the side. And you know what that is? The vows. You are meeting in front of everybody, not just to wear a white dress and a tux. You're meeting in front of everybody, in front of folks that are witnesses, and God Himself to share your vows with one another. Does that make sense? And so I want us to grab this. What do those vows do? They establish loyalty. What happens is that some people will get into a marriage, and that whole marriage is built on infatuation. Built on, we like each other, all this kind of stuff, and it's built on that infatuation rather than in sickness and in health. To honor and to cherish until death do us part. And I understand across this room that maybe that your marriage didn't work out. And I want to be very sensitive to that because there's a lot of different reasons that marriages don't work out and that divorces happen. But here's what I want to really emphasize today is that there is a message in our world that says if that person does not fulfill you, then you have every right to walk away. And I think all of us could come around the Word of God and say that's not what a covenant is. A covenant isn't if I don't feel fulfilled, then I walk away. And so when we talk about this, that loyalty is so important to your bridge. As a parent is naturally supposed to be loyal to their children. That's why if you've ever had a parent walk out, that bridge of trust that should have been there isn't there. And that's why for some of you that are here today, you have an adopted parent or maybe a person that maybe they're not even your true parent. They just kind of put their arm around you and adopted you and loved on you. And that's why that person is closer to you than even your own family, is because they have established the pillar of loyalty that sits on top of the bridge of trust. You see what I'm saying? And so we've got to understand this. And I feel like those are the things that are so important. Now, there's a lot of things of how you drive the car. I know I've got the car over here, the car of communication and the messages. And can I just kind of pause right here? Because sometimes people, they might have trust and they might have loyalty and things like that. They're just reckless drivers. They're just reckless drivers. And I think that we need to think about that as believers. I think that we need, especially when we look at ourselves and we're asking ourselves, my bridge is built, but am I driving recklessly? Think about that. Am I saying this in an aggravated and annoyed tone? We've got to ask questions, and this is not dumb to ask a question like, am I hungry? Because when you're hungry, when whatever's about to come out of your mouth will typically not sound the same way it was if you've eaten something. Am I tired? Am I lonely? Am I angry? All of those things come together so that we want to be God's people and we don't want to drive recklessly. And the Bible talks about this. Colossians 3 verse 12 says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, we're God's people. If you're a Christian, it says, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Later on, it'll talk about forgiving one another as the Lord forgave you. And so even if you've established this bridge of trust and you've got a pillar of loyalty, I want you to hear this. Don't drive across that thing recklessly. It doesn't give you the right to do that recklessly. I have known guys, that have gotten in trouble, and as a last-ditch effort to make things right, they've tried to send their wife or whoever flowers as the last-ditch effort. Let me give you an idea of what the Bible has to say about that. Let's look at verse 17 real quick. And Jonathan had David reaffirm his oath out of love for him because he loved him as he loved himself. The word love is done there 3 times. He loved for him because he loved him as he loved himself. So Jonathan makes a covenant, and then David reaffirms his love for Jonathan. And so here's what I want you to do. On the other side, I want you to draw your other pillar. We're only going to have 2 pillars today. I want you to draw your other pillar. And when you go into that pillar, I want you to write this one word, love. Just write love. Because that's what they're establishing. So they've got trust, then they've made a covenant, which establishes loyalty, and then David is reaffirming his oath out of love, because he loved him over and over. It's what it says. So Jonathan and David, don't miss this, are in a heated conversation, but they come together because they reaffirm their trust, their loyalty, and their love for one another. And so that's what your pillar looks like. Let me go back to what I was talking about just a second ago. So I've seen guys who have been in the doghouse with their significant other. And what they tried to do in order to try to make things right or show love and show loyalty, all of that, as a last-ditch effort to try to save whatever's going on. The damage has been done. That's when they try to send flowers. Now, ladies, what's wrong with that picture? Because you're really asking one question, is this legit? Does he really mean this, or is he just trying to piece this thing together? Do you think that it worked in that situation? It did not work. It did not work because here's what I want you to understand. Those flowers were reactive flowers. Reactive flowers, not proactive flowers. Do you see the difference? They're reactive flowers, not proactive flowers. I guarantee you, if those flowers had been sent with nothing wrong, it would have established so much better that pillar of love. Built a strong bridge so that when the arguments come, not if the arguments come, when the arguments come, that when those disagreements happen, that trust bridge would not have been broken. So she could look right back at him in that scenario. Well, why did you send me flowers for no reason? No reason. I just love you. I just care about you. You're my soulmate. You see? You see the difference? Proactive and not reactive. That's why birthdays and anniversaries are important. When I look at things like that they're not just moments for celebration. Okay, it's a birthday, it's a celebration. It's not just marriage with your kids. I see them as opportunities to reinforce that bridge. This isn't in the notes, but I'm going to tell it anyway since we got just a hair bit of top. There was one time I had been celebrating Carrie Ann's birthday so many times before we got married. And I always did huge birthdays. We would do something fun. We'd go on an outing. I tried to be creative. And then we got married, and the first birthday that she had that rolled around during our marriage, I didn't do anything. Because I thought to myself, and I'm so sorry, I can't believe it's about to come out of my mouth. I thought, I've already got this in the bag. I've already established vows and love and loyalty. Don't hate me, all right? Been married 15 years. I've grown a lot, all right? That was year number 1. It didn't work. It wasn't great, but we made it through, all right? It was year number 1. And so, but later on, so we've established that proactive. And why do you use those moments? They're opportunities for you to reinforce your bridge. Now, you cannot, their reaction to you, that's not on you, okay? So I want you to hear that. Their reaction to you, but that you have done what you can to establish trust, love, and loyalty, and that you can feel good at night as you go to bed, that you've been a biblical believer, and that you said that I've done everything I can to build this bridge. But can I just tell you one more thing before we close today? Is that Jesus Christ is the perfect picture of building a bridge of love and loyalty. How can we talk about relationships? How can we talk about good communication? How can we talk about how it's beyond words unless we draw our attention to the one who loves us and cares about us, who will never leave us or forsake us if we don't talk about Christ? John 3:16, which is such a popular verse, but I don't want us to miss it. I want you to see the bridge that's even in this. It says, "For God so loved the world." He loves you. Hear the pillars. That He gave His one and only begotten Son, that whosoever believed in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Do you hear those two pillars? The pillar of love. He loved the world. His covenant and His loyalty, that when you trust in Him, you're not going to perish. You're going to have everlasting life. Do you see the pillars are even in your relationship with Jesus? That loyalty, if you believe you will have everlasting life, that's His covenant with you. And so I hope maybe you have a little bit of room left. I don't know if you do or not, but if you have a little bit of room left, can we just draw one short picture that looks like this? I want you to put God at the top and you at the bottom, because God and you is a vertical relationship. Every other relationship that you have is a horizontal relationship. It's a relationship with you and other people. But your relationship with God is a vertical relationship. And what the Bible tells us is that in Romans 3:23 is that the wages of sin is death. That sin has broken down your relationship with God. You cannot have a relationship with God because of your sin. Technically, if we're going to talk about the villain, you and I are the villain He is the hero. We have this sin that has gotten in between us and him, and there is a broken relationship. And that's why he sent his son Jesus to die on a cross, is that God was making a bridge beyond words. So I want you to draw a picture right there of a cross between you and God. That cross is beyond words. He didn't just say words. He proved it by his actions, by sending his one and only son. It's because he loves you and he wanted to have your sins forgiven. And so like I mentioned earlier, so he stretches out his arms, and these aren't just pillars. This is his arms stretched wide with nails in them. And he's got love on one side and he's got loyalty on the other side. He loves you so much. He cares about you so much. And then on the other side, his loyalty, that he said that I'm going to die. I'm going to stretch out my arms in loyalty. And as the Bible calls it, we talk about a covenant, a new covenant. New Testament means new covenant. So he's stretching out his arms in love and loyalty, this new covenant, this new vow that he's making to you. And what is this new vow that he's making to you? I want you to write this word right across your bridge. It's the same thing. Trust. Trust. When you trust in Jesus as your Savior, by what he did on the cross, and you say, I see your love, I see your loyalty, and now because you've died for me, I'm trusting in you as the Lord of my life, then there becomes a bridge for you between you and God. And he saves your soul in that bridge. He gives you the Holy Spirit. He gives you a home in heaven. One day that we're going to step out of this world, we're going to cross that bridge between us and heaven, and we get to go to heaven. And it's all because we put our trust in Jesus. And so my final question for you today is, yes, have you built the bridge between you and others? But even beyond that, have you've got the cross as a bridge that God built for you to come to him. Have you put your trust in that bridge?